Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome. It is a wonderful, wonderful Monday night. We are so thankful. I don't know if we've heard that word enough this week, right?
Not yet.
We're so thankful that you're joining us be- because we've got things to be thankful for,
Yes,
Yes.
massive
like
amounts
like
of
the
food.
and Charlie Brown Thanksgiving and
Ooh, popcorn and jelly beans.
yeah,
I learned how my best cooking came from that episode. I'm just saying. Pretzels,
that's
anyone?
why Lori does all the cooking anymore, right?
The cooking in which people actually enjoy. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, remember you're the one who told me to do Skittles and M&Ms.
Yeah. It
I
was.
still haven't done that shit.
Yeah.
Don't.
It was.
Don't.
It was good.
No, it was
Fine.
not. It
Fine.
was not good. Now,
Go back to your
Skittles and
Starburst.
Tootsie Rolls, different story.
Oh,
Different story.
See, yeah.
But Skittles and M&Ms, don't do it. Don't listen to John. No. No.
Some people are just too fancy.
yeah.
It's just not funky.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
what we're going
not
to go with.
funky enough for you. I get it.
Did you eat six of them or four of them?
Four of them. He only ate four.
Then it wasn't that funky.
Yeah, not
No.
funky enough for him.
No, that was the problem. I need to have a bunch more, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Six. Six is the magic number.
Well, that would be. All right,
The
guys.
conversations you guys miss before we go live, I'm telling you, it makes all puts everything in context.
All
Oh,
right, to put it, we were talking about lighting, like tube lights. Do you go four? Do you go six? And Dan said he thought six was funky, so we're all going with six
it
tube
is.
lights is
I
the
said
funky.
sometimes you need to be a little more funky, so you got to do
Yeah,
six.
six and
Yes,
six is a funky number. It just
yeah, it
is.
is.
I mean, everybody who's ever said the word six has said, "Yeah, that was indeed a funky thing I just said." That's what they've said.
Yeah,
That's what they all say.
yeah,
Everyone says it.
And they take it down to Funky Town.
yeah.
It all comes together. All right, gentlemen, it is question and answer night. We've got a variety of different questions tonight, and we're going to be digging into. If anyone is out there in the chat has a question you'd like us to hit tonight or in the future, you could just put that into the chat, because even if this is in rerun and you're watching it at a later time, everywhere except if you're watching it on like Apple or listening to it as a podcast, we can't get those. But if it's on a video player, those will pop over to me, and then we can add those for future episodes. So, gentlemen, let's get ready to jump to our first question, and let's go. All right, our first question tonight. Somebody was thinking about starting a DJ company, and they were wondering about what are some of the first things to think about when you're starting a company. And we talked a little bit about this. Cubbie, I'm going to have you start this one out because you had, I think, a really great starting point for someone looking to kind of get into the business.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to say, what is your end game? What is your end goal? Is it to be a full-time DJ and you own a company, or is it more of a type part-time basis where you're doing club work and you're not wanting to get into weddings, but you're doing more of a club DJ and kind of working on that? Do you need to work full-time for insurance purposes? There are so many things to take in consideration before you start a DJ company, is what my feeling is. And what type of training do you have? To lead into doing somebody's biggest day of their life at that point in time. So I would have to say, prior to starting it out, what investment am I looking to make, i.e., websites, music libraries, equipment? What's my goal? How I'm going to end up, and then then I'll figure out the path I'm going to take from that point on.
And I think that goal idea is, and we've all sat through the classes where they talk about, if you don't have a goal, you don't have anything to aim for and aim towards. So I think that idea is great. Skill set. You were kind of alluding to a couple of things with maybe a person's personal skill set. Dan, you have done a lot of training in different things. How does innate skills compared to learned skills? For somebody who's like, I don't know how to do a lot of these things, but I think I can learn those. Or the other way around, they're like, I'm really good at this, and then I don't need to have anything. How do give us your thoughts on the difference between an innate skill and a learned skill?
Well, I think when it comes to the different aspects of your business, there is a level to this, right? So for example, if you're wanting to mix music and you have no sense of rhythm at all, that missing innate skill is going to make it much more difficult for you, right? But if you at least have a sense of rhythm, then the skills to how to properly mix a song together become a lot more easy to learn. So I think you do have to have some of those innate pieces that are going to give you kind of a leg up on some a natural ability. And I don't want to say that you can never mix music if you have no sense of rhythm, because obviously there's so much technology out there, you can use that to your advantage a little bit more, but it's gonna help that process um, speed along much faster. Also, if you're not a people person, right? If your innate skill is not as a people person, you might think like, oh, like your vision might be the festival DJs, right? They're up on the stage, they're not really around anybody, like they don't have that people skills. Guess what? They do, because there's not you're not going to get to there without having something there. So the ability to have kind of that built-in um, process of being able to talk with people, being able to work with them and get that feeling, I think that becomes important to lead into then the learning how to run your business, the learning how to use that networking that you have the innate ability to then take it to the next level.
So Dan just mentions, of course, a couple of skill sets, Cubbie. What happens if that I set my goal and then I start getting into, evaluating my skill sets, just skill ability a little bit, and what happens when the two don't jive? Where do you see a person at that point?
You either got to work on yourself to get, to get better, or just drop out because nobody's gonna hire you once you get a couple bad reviews. My goal, my thought would be is I hope that everybody just betters themselves, and prior to getting into it, oh my gosh, yeah. Don't just say I'm gonna think I got a lot of music. I know I got a music knowledge. I think I can do that. You go to a wedding, we've all seen it. We go to weddings, somebody goes, I think I can do that, or they have a nice camera, think they become a photographer. They don't think they realize all that goes into it, and the knowledge you got to have about what encompasses the whole day, not just the DJ portion of it, but you've got to know about everything, ceremonies and receptions and how to read a crowd, what music to play at what time, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's just not. Sometimes it's just not that easy.
I would encourage you to find a mentor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're deciding to start out, exactly as Cubby said, like what is your end goal? Is your end goal, this type of scenario? Is your end goal, to be the local bar DJ and make some fun money on the weekends and that's it? Like what is that end goal? And then find the person that's willing to, take you along to kind of, if nothing else, just shadow them for an event or two to see what all goes into it, and then go, is that something I want to do? Right? Like, yes, maybe I can do it, but oh my gosh, I didn't realize that this encompassed X, Y, and Z, and having this ready to go, and all the behind the scenes types of pieces, and go, that's a lot of work. I don't know if I want to do that. Get yourself that opportunity before you decide to make your any monetary investment beyond some initial pieces.
It's interesting, Dan, that you mentioned the, kind of going along and then seeing the work and then be like, whoa, may not be for me. I was talking to, just a little bit off, but it still fits. I was talking to a gentleman who hires, he's an HR person for a larger business here in central Minnesota that hires maybe 200 people. And he was talking about with today's youth, they get in there and they start and they like quit after 2 or 3 days because they're like, oh my gosh, this is way more work than I thought it was going to be. And thinking back to when I started at the post office, that first week, the first 2 days, I came home and I just crashed because I was completely shot. And then, but day 3 was a little bit better, and day 5 was better, and the day by 3 weeks in there, I had gotten into the rhythm and I was doing pretty well, and so he was basically lamenting the fact that today's people don't give it enough time to get themselves to that point where they can go and say, hey, I can do this, and I can do this at a level. Or they come in the other direction and they're like, they blow everything off because I know it all and I can do it, and they don't do it. They don't do the little things that they need to be successful because they're just kind of like, I can come in here and I'm greater than this job and I can make it all happen, even though they're not doing it at a high enough level to be competent. So kind of interesting how those things fit in to that finding a mentor and going out there and not quite maybe giving it enough time.
I had a kid one time who thought he wanted to be a DJ, and he came out and shadowed, just like Dan said.
Yep.
He's going to work for a company. He came out and he's like, I don't think I can do that. It's like, I don't think I can do that. So
Well,
I was like, hey, I'm glad you told me now, versus me spending all that time um, and trying to train him and rely on him, because it takes a lot of hours.
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's also a difference though between, you know, the scenario that John you're mentioning where they get in and they don't really give it enough time, and yeah, I agree. Like as you kind of develop some um muscle memory of what you're going to do, like some of it becomes a little bit easier as you're going. But in the same respect, is it something that you want to do? And I think that's the key of the shadowing aspect, is just to get an idea of, is this something that I want to do, to learn, to achieve, because I now see it's this. And maybe it is, I still want to DJ, but I don't want to be that type of DJ. Right? Like that's another aspect to it, right? Like, you might say, you know what? I want to do weddings, and you go along and you're like, that's great. And you go, okay, now I'm going to see if I want to do school dances. Oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. Right? Like, so you get a chance to kind of figure out what area within the industry that you would want to be at.
So I want to kind of wrap it. Let's go circling all the way back to the end goals, and let's put a time on it, meaning that the end goal of where I want to be in 5 years, as kind of the long range goal. Experts talk about having short range goals, kind of a mid and a longer. So let's say the 5 years is our long range goal of wanting to be, the headliner at whatever, or the most popular wedding DJ, whatever that is. When it comes to shorter goals, or goals, how do you set other goals that because obviously they talk about these things that are very important. How do you figure out what those would be, those in that process, I guess?
You start with Dan on that one, because
Yeah.
Sure. I think it depends upon what that long-term goal is, to be able to determine what those beginning pieces are. I would say that, like, let's assume for a second we're sticking with the wedding idea, and your long range goal is to have have a successful business, and where you're booking 50 weddings in a year. We'll say that's the game. I would say your short-term goal needs to be, I want to get five. I want to have five ready to go in the next 6 months. Whether the event is within 6 months or not, maybe a different story, but there's so much that has to go into getting that name out there, getting started. And really, if you were to track your businesses and your events, they should have an exponential type of growth curve, right? Like there's not going to be, it's not going to suddenly shoot straight up, but it's going to ramp itself. It's going to be slow to begin with, and then it's going to ramp up. And so I think to have a 10% of my end goal, within 6 months, might be a good way to get yourself a realistic, positive goal.
Kevin, when
Kind
you're
of.
when you're looking at your business and such, you kind of forecast into like 2025, and you and I talked a little bit about this. Your goal for the amount of events. How do you kind of come up with that? And then that'll be pretty much wrapping up this question to wrap up the end goal. But how do you look at that, and how did you come up with what would be successful when it came to the amount of events you're looking at having for next year?
for me, being as I share with you guys all the time, as I'm the oldest fish in the pond, so I have a track record of doing over 250 weddings a year, my company. I don't think I can go any higher, because my guys don't want to do any. Let's say hire more people, and hiring more people kind of scares me. I don't want to be the biggest in my town. I just want to be the best. So I'm happy with where I'm at with my growth, but I do like to see, for me, growth would be new venues, being on the preferred list at a new venue. It's not going to be very many numbers, because we're already 3/4 to our goal for next year,
And
and we haven't hit
that goal is that
uh,
250 number again.
250. Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, so for me, it is hitting it early. But I noticed post-COVID, or definitely post-COVID. I mean, not recently past post-COVID, but here recently, people are booking later now. Like, and I talked with you earlier, John, that
Mm-hmm.
like I worked in a lead the other day. I got them in September. They kind of fell off the earth. I'm like, oh, okay, didn't book it. No worries. They reached out to me today and then booked. I'm like, why took you 3 months to book? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no more sense of urgency anymore, you know? Like post-COVID, like when we were just coming out of COVID, everybody's wanting to secure their date. Now I'm booking May, and already still. So and I have like one DJ left, and I'm like, okay, we went down to one left. Sorry, you don't get to choose. So for me, my pattern would be stay at 250 unless I hire somebody different, and then that number would go higher. But for me, the growth would be, oh, I got a new venue underneath my belt. We got somebody else referring us as a photographer. For me, that would be the growth, what I would like.
Excellent. All right, guys, let's jump to our next question. Okay, and the next one is somebody who's asking of how do you stay inspired and continually improving what you do as a professional entertainer? What do you personally do to keep inspired and improving?
Cubbie?
Oh, okay, great. For me, during the season, in the middle of everything, I take Sunday, Mondays off. I don't answer any phones. I reply to emails. I do it earlier in the morning, so my rest of my day is off. So I can do some self-care. Off season, I'm going to trade shows. I loved it. I just got back from Wedding MBA. Amazing show. I'm going to MEX. I went to Marquee this year. So continue to stay inspired by other DJs, friends, reaching out to friends through phone calls. What are you doing new? Just kind of chatting and finding out what they're doing in their market. I love our Monday night show, how three of us get together and share ideas. Um, that's how I stay inspired and continue to improve is continue to educate and go to different shows
Good, Dan.
and watch our show every Monday night.
You've never watched one of our shows. You're in the show. And there's
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
are times, I mean, we don't even pay attention to each other.
What was the question?
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
So,
Six.
so, so what I like to do, I mean, we've talked about this, a few different times, is I'm often, on Mixcloud. I'm listening to what other DJs are playing. I'm listening for that new way to put some songs together. And I like to just listen, right? Just kind of hear some music and maybe hear different versions and different edits out there. And that really kind of helps from the DJ standpoint. And because the other thing is oftentimes when I'm playing weddings, it's the same collection of music, right? Maybe a different order. Some songs come and go, but it's not like it's a whole bunch of new stuff. And so when I'm listening to the Mixcloud, I often get newer versions of songs from some people. Or we've talked about Mike Walter and his set that he does, which is taped live from a wedding. So it gives me another way to do that. I also like to listen to live mixes, from events because it helps with the mic aspect. It helps with the hype aspect of what I might be doing during the dancing portion of the night. Something that I've always wanted to kind of inspire myself to do better, to improve myself to do better with. And so hearing other DJs do that, it is helpful. Either to reinforce what I'm doing, to learn to do something better, or to go, there's no way I'm doing it that way. Whatever might happen to be the case. And then like Cubby, I like to go to DJX. There's other shows I'd like to go to if they didn't happen during the school year. But that's neither here nor there when it comes to that. But I also believe in workshops.
Mm.
I believe in those opportunities when they're there of you know whether it's a day or whether it's 2 days or whether it's more, of going to learn what you need to do so you can constantly do better. Because when I leave those expos, when I leave those workshops, I'm energized, I'm rejuvenated, and I have some knowledge under my belt that gives me the confidence to go forward a little bit more too. So DJ side, MC side, and then just kind of the confidence side. Those are the pieces that I kind of bring together.
Nice, nice. I think my thing for inspiration's right behind me. Let me grab it, guys. It'll be just this right over here.
Gosh, I hope it's not Huey Lewis.
I know, looks like it's the vinyl. It's the vinyl.
Yeah, I think this is it right here. One of these things that, I mean, this is guaranteed. This is something that I was really excited about getting, because you just can't help but not be inspired when you have, something like this. So when you need the ultimate in inspiration, and you really need to be able to bring your A game. I don't know if you can see this, but limited edition color vinyl. So now, not only are you bringing in some of the best music ever recorded in human history. That's what everybody says, by the way. It's color vinyl.
We were both right. You named it vinyl, and I said it was Huey Lewis.
Oh, I knew it. I knew exactly which vinyl it was too, because I remember him talking about the fact that it was coming. But you do understand that they have to put it in different colors because they don't make more albums.
But
nobody buy it if they didn't put it in different colors.
Any more than just that one album. So they got to put different colors to make you want to buy something from them.
Twice.
Well, I think that's probably that might be because there's 2 copies in there, so that could be potentially 6 copies of sports on vinyl that I have. Yeah, and I noticed that the boys, they've been playing pool behind me, and they have the Huey Lewis collections, which is kind of their greatest hits on vinyl over there. I didn't even have to say anything; they just pulled it out and were playing it. So. But getting on a more serious side of it, the communication and such, and yes, you can go on chat boards. I find most of my going to chat boards and being involved in different groups and such, I don't find that inspiring. I find that actually in many cases depressing, because you're getting, yes, there's occasionally there's a nugget. But for every nugget, there's probably 10 things that are said that are wrong or that are degrading or are just not something that is mentally healthy for a person on any Facebook groups. A couple of them are that where I know some people, different story, but most of them it wouldn't be worth the time of day for a mentally healthy person to be trying to find inspiration for what we do. Private group chats, those can definitely be part of it. Hanging out in the, I've had a couple of times where I've jumped into the chill room late at night and had some conversations with some people on my way back from shows. That connection that you can do, yes, you can do some things online, and you can get that positive, inspirational discussion back and forth, and kind of build off each other's energy and love for the industry. Doesn't work as well as face-to-face. There's no question that face-to-face just has a different energy and a different atmosphere than digital, but you can still do things. There's five people that I talk to on a regular basis, and that is a huge thing. That generally when I get done with those conversations, I've either feeling better about my day because we've just had a positive interaction, or I've got an idea of something. It might be something DJ related. It might be something personal life related, but there's just some positivity that has come from that conversation and that time together with a friend that helps to build as opposed to tearing down. And then there's times to be, Cubbie mentioned self-care. I think that is a huge thing. Going out, in my case, Dan and I have been running an awful lot. We're still trying to figure out who that creep is that's running behind us. We'll figure it out someday, but not today because we're too fast. But the running and lifting weights and exercise, for the longest time it was walking, just because that's what I could do and I wanted to do something. So whatever it is, but that self-care with that side of it, reading, I try to spend at least a half an hour to an hour a day reading. Sometimes it's going to be long articles. Sometimes it's books. Sometimes it's, reading the tea leaves on my, in the bottom of my coffee cup, whatever it is, but it's reading, has become an important thing. And because of the job I do, I spend a lot of time talking to people, way more time talking to people, especially face to face, than I have done in the last 20 years since I was teaching, literally. Because I am now there and I have people who are in their 80s and 90s who come in there just to talk to me, which is fabulous because it helps to hone skills that you can't hone sitting behind a computer at home updating websites. I can utilize a lot of different skills, a lot of inflection, a lot of different ways of saying things. And when I come to a night where I'm on a microphone, some of those things that I have been utilizing come through, and you can feel that. Wow, this I hadn't, I had a month. If I'd have a month off before, I would have been really kind of cumbersome. And tonight things went pretty well. It's because of different little aspects all coming together and helping put that together. So that's my two cents. I mean, obviously the album is the biggest thing that everyone in the crowd. I mean, I can just see in the chat room everyone was just fired up about that. They may not even be able to sleep tonight because they're so excited.
They're plotting.
Yeah, they will be applauding. I think I saw a couple of standing ovations in there. Even that was pretty. That was pretty touching indeed. Okay. Okay, let's jump to our next question here, guys. Okay, that's what it looks like. But I'm highlighting the whole question, which is, somebody was wondering, they were starting out and wondering where they should kind of put themselves when it came to wedding pricing, and they were looking at what factors should be involved when it comes to establishing their rates. So I think this one's going to be kind of all over the board, but we're going to give you a lot of things to think about when it comes to coming up with your rates. And Cubbie, I'm going back to start with you on this one because we talked a little bit about it, and you had a couple of great spots to start when it came to figuring out and establishing those rates.
Yeah, recently we had in our Facebook group a local guy who just didn't know what other people were charging, what he felt he should charge. And a lot of those questions came out as what is your time worth and what is, how much what is your expenses? And we know as DJs we don't have we do have some expenses, but we don't have like a restaurant expense where you're kind of going through cost of food and spoilage and things of that nature. But we do have expenses, and you need to take that in consideration. Nothing bothers me more. Well, a bridal show cost me $2,000. Well, I only need to book one wedding off that bridal show to make it worth my while. Does that mean you're not paying yourself? So, there's a lot of things to take consideration when you're doing your pricing. Your skill set. How many weekends are you willing to work, and what do you want to make off that weekend? If you're just starting out, you need to lower the bar a little bit to get those events so you can get those referrals and those reviews so that you can turn around and boister your price, continue to raise your price. There's a person within my market who's maybe done 3 weddings, but they feel they're worth over $2,000. I mean, that's great, but they're wondering why they're never booked. you know so maybe lower your expectations in the very beginning. Go out for what your minimum cost is, what you want to make, and then turn around and build that business, because nobody starts out at the top.
Dan, some thoughts with what's involved with coming up with your price?
So I love what Cubby really started with, which was the idea of figuring out what your expenses are, put them down on a piece of paper, take the number of weddings you realistically low end think that you will make in a year, or do in a year, divide the numbers out, and that's just your expenses. So then figure out, okay, now what do I want to make each time that I go out? And again, in a realistic type of position. I don't think, as Cubby said, the person who went out after doing 3 weddings and is charging $2,000. Now that's great if they're getting that money, but if they're not, then it's not helping you reach the goal of the number of weddings that you want to have in a year. Um, the thing that I would add to that is think about any job that you've ever worked. You start at the low end of the pay scale and you work your way up. The longer you do it, the more that you make. And so I think there's something to that. I think there's something to keep in mind, especially as as you go. If you're charging the same thing you did 5 years ago, then there's something that might be wrong with that scenario, in that situation. So, keep those things in mind as you go into your business more. But it's very hard to come up with a singular number, right? And not just based upon different areas, right? That's obviously going to have a factor. Somebody who's in a large metropolitan area, what they can charge, and I kind of almost use can charge or should charge, is going to be different than somebody who's in the more rural area. And it just kind of comes down to what's expected, um an expected price. That's another thing piece that kind of plays into that puzzle. But to figure out your starting price, like figure out your expenses, figure out how much, you know being gone for 10 hours, 12 hours in a day is worth you time wise and money wise. Put those two things together and you have a decent place to begin, and then anything above that can be gravy as you go.
So you're talking different places, like the starting point in the market. I think Cubbie mentioned that, or did you mention it, Dan? Um, but there's going to be a range in your market from someone who's on the low end to someone who's on the high end. And I think that's a great idea and aspect to know that, as both of you are kind of alluding to, is that when we're starting out, we're probably going to be more towards the lower end of it or somewhere in that vicinity, because our skill set, the value that we bring to the event, is probably closer to that end than it is to the middle or to the high. One of the things that is talked about a lot when you're looking at the range of prices within your market, most likely, is that there's a bell curve. They've research has shown that there is generally a bell curve, and that the most event or most companies that are going to be charging that middle amount, that's the kind of the top of the curve. So most of the companies are going to be right here. There's going to be some that are out there for peanuts, and there are going to be some that are your high end ones. In a rural area, there's not many shows over here on this very high end. There's a couple, but there's not many of them. So you end up trying to figure out in this whole process of where you want to be, what does that price point look like, and then can I deliver what's needed to get there? Or what do I need to do here? We're back to our goals from the other question is, what do I need to go from here to my goal here to be in this area, or to be on the downward side of that bell curve, but on the higher end of it, wherever you want to be. Just a lot of different potential numbers here that you could be charging for it, and that's just looking at your given market of where you want to work. And that information, sometimes you can talk to other DJs and they'll share. Sometimes you can talk to some venues and they know a little bit about what the prices are out there, if you can find a venue that will share such information. And sometimes you've got to. People have done the secret shopping. I mean, Alan Berg talks about doing that quite often, about secret shopping different companies to get some information about how they're doing it and what they're doing. So, not that I'd recommend you misleading other companies to find out their pricing and such. Usually, it's the best to say, "Hey, I'm doing this, and I really want to get, and I kind of find, I love what you guys do, and I aspire to be like you guys, or to be able to be a quality like you, and I'm just wondering where you're at for price wise." And sometimes they'll tell you and be very honest and very helpful. Sometimes they'll tell you to go, pound concrete type of thing, or pound pavement.
I think one of the things that can also work in your favor, though, is by that transparency. Like, listen, I don't know what I don't know. I know what I need to cover for my expenses, but I don't want that to make me look like I'm undercutting you. Right? Like when you're having that conversation with the other companies in your area, you can kind of lead to that. Like, listen, the reason why I'm reaching out is because I don't want to, accidentally charge something that makes you think that I'm trying to undercut you, and kind of, go into that aspect. That's where I was for a large portion of my career. I didn't know about, reaching out to the other DJs, and maybe when I was at a bridal show, they had a price sheet and I might be able to see it, but I was charging less than a lot of them without recognizing that I was charging less.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important for you to take advantage of that opportunity to figure out where that bell curve is for your area.
Cubbie, does that even in your situation, because you're an established and because you've got a consistent flow of the number of events that you have, does major changing in pricing even come onto your radar? Or is it just one of these things that you've got this plan of slight increases, and as long as you're good.
Yeah, incremental increases due to economies where we raise our prices. Nothing too no more major jumps like I have done in the past
Mm-hmm.
because we're there and we're on the higher end of the market. But I've got 5 guys I got to put out.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't be the highest. And no, I don't charge higher for myself. I think that's horrible. When somebody says, "Well, I'm $5,000, but my people are $2,000." Nope, I train them all. They're all the same. You're gonna get the same experience, just different personalities. And I don't have an ego for that. So I think that's where we are kind of successful that way is we don't charge more. I don't charge more for myself. I just don't believe in that. And maybe I'm wrong. And there's some great guys that do it. If you do it, fantastic. And it works for you. But I feel that tells my couples that my DJs aren't as good as I am. But I'm the one who trained them. So that would make me feel bad.
But it's the old thing that I've taught them everything they know, but they don't know everything I know. There's that discussion.
True.
So, all right, gentlemen, let's jump to our next question tonight. Okay, the next question, if you've been following the chat boards and such, and yes, I talked down about them just a little bit ago, but I do go out and police these just to get the pulse of the industry sometimes. But pricing questions, this is the time of year where pricing questions are just abundant out there, and people asking, how to set my price, what do you charge for this, what do you charge for that? And it's usually generally very consistent that it happens in the fall. That we have a lot of. Why do you think that that the pricing becomes such a big discussion as we sit here today? Dan.
I think it comes down to the fact that we're getting ready to turn over to a new year. You've just come off of a busy season for most of us, unless you're in the southern part of the US, and then you maybe just starting to ramp up now. But for the most part, we see the new year and the end of our main season as kind of an opportunity to kind of reevaluate where we are. And so rather than taking the time to step back and look at what those expenses were, what did we bring in, where do we want to be, it's kind of a little bit easier to reach out and say, hey, what are you doing? And kind of to that point, it's easier to ask somebody that's across the US than somebody who's, just down the street from me and be able to get that straightforward answer, I think, in that aspect. So I think that's some of it. I think it's also one of those pieces where, as we get into now that the season's over, we also think about new upsells. It always seems to be like this is the time the Black Friday sales come about, right? So everybody's like, okay, what can I pick up to add to my system? And oh, by the way, what are you charging to now add this new feature, whatever it is? And so I think there's that side of the new prices or the price questions as well, because it's a new piece. And I don't know necessarily where to begin because I technically haven't picked it up to know what my everyday cost is and what realistically I can charge for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When it came to you mentioned business expenses and such, knowing what you've spent and such. That's generally my January, after you've done the taxes. The taxes are done for the year, and now pretty much hard numbers, and you can see how much the company profited for the year or what have you, because sometimes they don't make any money, especially after deductions and write-offs and such. But you can look at that, and then now that I've got hard numbers, it seems like January is the time I really want to change pricing, because I look at it and it's like, well, this sucks. I want to make a gazillion dollars, and I don't see any way that this made a gazillion dollars. Now I want to change. So business expenses. Cubbie, how
But
about?
I think that's
Oh, go ahead.
I think that side that you had though is from a business owner who's going to take the time to study those numbers. I don't think those are the same people that are asking the same question.
Yeah, I
I
definitely
think
think
that that's why.
yeah, definitely. Okay.
Yeah, I concur with Dan. I think everybody's just waiting. It's a new year, new pricing. We got our 2025 pricing. Maybe they do want to buy new gear, so they have to justify it. You've now just gone through a season, and depending on the number of weddings that you do per year, your experience just grew by that much more. I mean, you've been in that money, so you're probably more valuable. and than what you were 2 years ago or a year ago, or the last time you raised your pricing. We also have to look at the economy and what's going to happen with gas prices and like Dan said, with add-ons. I'm not a real big fan of jumping
Yes.
on the latest craze of add-ons, whether it's cold sparklers, chocolate fountains,
Well,
bubble machines.
your chocolate fountain, you're getting ready to bring that back. I'm hoping because it's gonna hit. It's gonna hit.
Do you know what's trending now? Is queso fountains for
Queso.
chips and dip.
Yes, that would be melty cheese.
Can you use the same device? Can the
Yes.
chocolate fountain do the? So there you go. That's all they needed to do was figure out a way to make it
Repurpose.
useful again. And
Repurpose.
listen,
Reduce.
who doesn't
Reuse.
love a good queso?
I did a wedding this fall, and it wasn't even a guy who was a content creator or anything. He posted the queso fountain and had 2.1 million TikTok hits. And the
Holy.
guy's not even, yeah, it blew up. And now this queso fountain that this one place in my town has is just going, he's buying a couple more.
Wow.
Because chips and because we do tacos at weddings. A lot of times in the Midwest we have buffets and things of that nature. But a queso for an appetizer, like a chips and queso with little guacs, crazy huge right now.
Wow.
Crazy huge.
There you go.
But I'm not a bandwagoner as far
You're not
as
going to
some of
go
the
buy one.
what's that?
You're not going to go buy one. Is what you're saying.
No, but I mean like cold sparks. I held off on that because they do a lot of barn weddings, and I just felt that, and I feel the curve is coming down. I know a lot of people sell them already.
Mm-hmm. That they have. That they have. All right, gentlemen, I think we have time enough for one more question tonight. So there's an interesting discussion that went on, and they kind of put together a question based on that discussion. And if there's one area that you could work on within your business that could return the greatest, you get the greatest return, and it would make the largest difference in your business going forward by investing some time or money and working in just one area, what would that be? Which area would that be? As an example, the business side or the performance side or the sales side or any other area that could make the biggest jump or the biggest strides forward for your business or yourself. Cubbie, I'm going to have you start.
Wow, because I'm reading the question, and while you were just explaining it to everybody watching, I'm going, God. Okay, outside of business trading, okay, I'm not going to say, I'm going to stay away from that.
Okay, because you don't feel that business trading would be the biggest improvement, could give you the biggest improvement within your business.
Later, again, it depends on what time I'm talking to a DJ, whether he's been in it for a few years, whether he's new, or whether he's experienced. I would probably have to say performance training, honestly. And Dan's gonna go with sales. I know he is, but because we always disagree. That's great though. I mean, that's awesome. So for me, performance training is when I can get in front of 250 people or 30 people. I've got 250 potential clients out there at each and every wedding, and if I duplicate that 50 to 55 times a year, I don't have to do my sales. They've seen me. I don't have to worry about a sale. They've sold myself with my performance. And if I go out there and knock each and every wedding out of the park with the different classes I've taken, whether it's Joe Bunn, Mike Walter, Bill Herman, there's a lot of them great out there. There's so many out there that my performance will sell itself because I'm out in front of 250 clients at each potential clients at each and every wedding. So I'm going to go with performance training on that.
And I knew you'd do that. And I think the point though is I don't think in your career, in your situation, it would have mattered whether it was performance training early, mid, or late. You've had performance training throughout your life.
Yeah.
And as you say, that performance training for you to make it just a little bit better and make it a little bit tighter in what you're doing is going to continue to basically that's your strong spot, and you're working on your strength area, and it shows, and that's why you're booking the number of shows you're booking and doing what you're doing. Dan, which area for yourself? Which one would be the biggest area of improvement or help the growth process the most?
Oh, see, now you switched up the question because I was
well,
because I was thinking this. We were giving advice for people, and now you said it's for me.
Well, which one? I mean, Cubbie basically described it in himself the performance side of it and made his. But that's what I wanted to kind of say is he is that performer. So for him, that definitely fits in that situation.
Yeah. So, and then that's the funny thing. Like my original answer was, what area do you suck in? Right? Like that's the one that you need to focus on the most, because whatever area you're the weakest in, that's the area that's going to make the biggest impact. I'm with Cubbie though, with the performance piece. I really think that needs to be the side that makes that you need to focus on first, because exactly as he said, right? You have potential clients in front of you, you have vendors who are watching you, you are going to make an impact with them, 9 times out of 10. Because what do we all say? Like when we really have an established business, where does most of our business come from? Word of mouth. That word of mouth is because you were good. That word of mouth was not because you had a good sales game. That word of mouth was not because you were a great business person. That word of mouth came because of the performance being better. So I really believe that's, even for myself, like that's the area that I get the biggest return on, is from that performance training to improve my game. Um, Now maybe if I took the others, my business might be thriving better. I don't know, but
I
I'm
don't
gonna say
either.
that I'm gonna say it's the performance side.
So and I think I'm going to go and talk the sales side. I think is one of the areas in which we could be one of the probably most overlooked areas. And the reason I say it that way is because if you're a good salesperson, you're a good communicator, and you can convey your message of what you're doing out there, you can, people, good salespeople can do a lot of business, and they can do a lot of business at a professional rate. Yes, you have to have the skills, the performance side of it, but if you were going to take and become a better performer, especially if you're a good performer, but you're not a great performer, but you're a good salesman. I mean, if you're equal in those two areas, it might behoove you to do more on the sales side and learn how to sell. What are the key things that your good performance does, and how to be able to spin that, we're going to call it, to sell to the next person when they call and they're asking for pricing and they're asking, what do you do for my day? Skills in communicating that could be huge. Business, to run a business and such, I think the only time that is going to be a something that's going to make a difference is if you run a really crappy business and you're having issues with the venues or someone because you're just not running your business properly, you're not getting contracts out, or you're not doing things legally, whatever. I think of the three, that's probably the least. Um, and I agree with the performance side. Obviously, that is a huge part of it. But I think we have a lot of people in the DJ industry who are adequate performers that think that they can go and take a lot of training in a performance area, and they can only go from here to here. Whereas if they stay adequate in essence with their performance, continue to practice, but they're never going to be great. But if they can convey and sell themselves, they might be able to sell. I mean, I know guys who can't DJ worth a lick, but they are great salespeople and they keep a very busy schedule, and people are happy because they're not overselling their skills and not promising the world. They're promising them X, Y, and Z, and not A, B, and C, D, E, and F, and a whole bunch of things. They're delivering above expectations, but they're not delivering the type of show that Cubbie. They're not on a microphone, um, just engaging the crowd in a fun way like he does. So that's the differences between, why he's different than me and why I am different than Dan, and why Dan is the busiest one because he's got all
I'm
sorts
not
of
doing
stuff.
250 shows. That's Cubbie.
Yeah, but he's got his staff. I mean, really all he does is sit home and he plays like Nintendo or something, and you know,
What's wrong with that?
yeah, that's true. It is kind of fun. It is fun.
I I'm just old as fish in the pond. I keep saying it, and I know I say it over again. But I honestly think if you do like great mic training classes, that's going to help in your sales. I mean, you're going to be able to talk to people, and when you talk to people, you can relate to them. Um, so I don't know. It's they're definitely top two, business and sales.
Yeah.
I'm not minimizing any of them, but I think if they see you, you've sold yourself. It's a lay down after that.
Well, and you could also even, I mean, when we're talking sales, if we kind of broaden it out to also, consider the marketing aspect of it, that's a whole other,
Social
you know,
media.
what was that?
Social media.
Well, I mean, social media, but even just even just how you share yourself out to everybody that's around you. I think there's another benefit to that happening and to that pulling that business to you. So because yeah, like you mentioned, like you've got those potential clients at the wedding, but I've also done quite a few weddings where this was the last of the friends to get married. And so unless there's a divorce and a remarry, there really wasn't any potential clients at the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So
But a photographer and a venue is every new
Oh,
place.
agreed. And I included them. I
Yeah,
included
you did. I don't know. Like I said, I think they're both great, sales and performance.
two important areas, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then, of course, there's the knowledge of music. In case you're wondering.
I wasn't.
Um,
Were you wondering, Dan?
yeah, he was wondering, I'm
I
sure.
was getting thirsty.
Oh, there we go.
I was getting thirsty.
Okay, I'm going to put the link for the DJNTV.com/chill into the area down here so everyone can bounce out to there because Eric has got things set and ready to go. And hopefully Brian and the crew will be able to join tonight. Yeah, and then we got to find out what happened to Brian Red's Facebook page.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's gone. Literally, it was gone, and he's got a new one. So yeah, you might have to find out, bounce out to the chill room and see what Brian has got going on with that. I'm gonna have to give him a call tomorrow and say, hey, what happened?
You get hacked?
Yeah, I think that's what he said. Is that had happened? But yeah, to have it completely gone is weird. Sometimes they'll go in there and they'll start posting things for you, but then people are like, I can't shut it off. It just keeps going. So I'll have to get the lowdown on what happened. Crazy. But yeah, we had some stuff coming this week. Tomorrow night, tonight, of course, it's the Monday night chat in there, DJNTV.com/chill. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night music show will be the 10 o'clock, and they'll be back in that chill room. We've got Ben Stowe tomorrow night talking about, let's see, I know the video players are out there. I don't remember what he's talking about. That would be great if I'd remember these things. Big Daddy's going to be coming up first tomorrow night, and I think he's got a Steve Rundon from Even Steve will be his guest tomorrow night. Oh, Ben Stowe's talking about the low-lying fog, and how he would suggest to do that for someone who wants to get into that area, and looking at some lighting systems that are going to be easier for a multi-system company where they want to have something that's kind of plug and play for their staff. So. And then Wednesday night, the Marquee Show podcast is back again. Casey's got David Hanscom and DJ Flipside coming in. And in Color Key's got a few more new lights they're going to be introducing on Wednesday night's show. And we start those shows at 9 o'clock Eastern and kind of take it from there. So, alrighty, Dan, you can take us home.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Hopefully we answered your question or you dropped it in the chat so we can answer it next time. We appreciate all of you. Hopefully you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.